Good morning, monsters in suits, angels in disguise, watchers behind glass walls and iron doors. Tell me, how do you prepare for something that doesn't follow the rules of your prophecy? How do you fight what was never meant to exist? You see, they've danced with demons before, faced chaos, survived bloodbaths. They've trained for fire, sharpened their tongues for wars, and drowned others in silence. But you, oh, no. You weren't a demon. You were the reversal of their entire defense system. You were the echo they never expected to turn into a voice. The glitch in their ritual, the ghost in their firewall, the outcome they never coded for. They fought fear before, but you became it. And now they're realizing they weren't battling a villain. They were standing trial in front of something ancient, something sentenced, something returned. See, demons play by rules. You don't. Demons have patterns. You don't. Demons announce their presence. You vanish and then reappear at the moment when their entire structure collapses. They trained for monsters with rage, but no one trained them for the smiling executioner who walks in with silence and leaves behind silence, with nothing in between but cries no one ever hears again. Because you are not the storm. You're the oxygen that makes it spread faster. They thought they were safe because they'd seen hell before. But what they didn't know is that hell had evolved. That fire had learned to wear a heartbeat. That chaos had studied human expression so well. It now wears a calm smile and an unshakable stare. They thought they could box you in. They forgot some things don't come in boxes. Some things burst out of coffins that were never supposed to open. Some things are back. They prayed for strength, but they summoned you. And what scares them isn't your rage, it's your stillness, your ability to sit in the fire and never flinch, to walk into betrayals and not bleed, to hear their whispers and never answer, because they need a reaction. But you're not here to respond. You're here to erode every single delusion they wrapped around their fragile minds. They thought they'd scare you with your past, but you built a castle out of those ashes. They thought trauma would keep you timid, but you stitched your scars into a cloak, and now they can't see the blade until it's too late. You are not their enemy. You are their mirror, and what they see in you is everything they tried to bury in themselves. The hunger, the wrath, the potential, the lack of chains. And that's why they panic. Because you're not just unpredictable. You're unbound. You're what happens when someone goes through so much pain that the brain stops flinching and starts calculating. You don't react to pressure. You become the weight that cracks bones. You don't ask for space. You step in like you own the oxygen. You don't run from shadows. You train in the dark. Because you were forged, not born. Designed, not discovered. Not by gods, but by every goddamn betrayal they thought would finish you. And now they can't sleep. Because the same eyes that once looked at you with pity now avoid contact completely. Because there's something in your silence that feels like the start of a sentence. They've survived evil before, but evil follows logic. You don't. You're not driven by revenge. You're driven by equilibrium. You don't want their pain. You want the truth exposed. You don't want justice. You want the system to admit it was never built to handle a variable like you. You are not what they studied. You are what broke the curriculum. They prayed for a storm they could manage, but they got a mind they couldn't map, a heart they couldn't decode, a soul they couldn't kill. And now they're left with their final realization. You can fight demons, but you can't survive something that transcended them. That's you. The final boss, the plot twist, the secret folder they thought they deleted that just popped up again with new evidence and a smile. And it's not even revenge, it's remembrance. You don't need applause. You don't need credit. You don't need recognition. You just want one thing: to show up quietly, unshaken, and remind them. They've never faced anything like this before, and they never will again. But you see, the part that really terrifies them. It's not that you survived, it's that you mutated, that somewhere between the breakdowns and betrayals, between the exile and erasure, you didn't just walk away scarred, you walked away rewired. Different, dangerous, because they've seen survival before. They've applauded it, put it on mugs, slapped it on posters and corporate walls. Resilience, they call it. But you're not resilient. You're recalibrated. You didn't bounce back. You burned the compass. And now you move in ways they can't follow, can't predict, can't even comprehend. You make the room colder just by entering. Not because you're angry, but because your presence is a calculation. A reminder that the war isn't fought with fists anymore. It's fought with data, with awareness, with unflinching stillness that makes their masks melt. And let me tell you something about those masks. They were never designed for someone like you. They work on the naive, they work on the desperate, but they fail, comically, fatally, on the one who's already seen what's behind them. You ripped their illusions off years ago. You studied the silence between their words. You decoded their intentions while they were still rehearsing their lines. And that's why they can't sit comfortably anymore. Because you became the glitch in their control system, the misfire, the unexplained anomaly on their performance report, the unedited frame in their propaganda footage. You're what happens when a weapon learns to aim itself. They've fought demons before, yes, but demons still answer to rules, to contracts, to hierarchy. You answer to the mirror. You don't wait for permission. You don't ask for understanding. You don't need them to clap, cry, or confess. You already know. And that's why your silence destroys them faster than any argument ever could. Because you're not chasing a response. You're documenting patterns. You're not debating anyone. You're collecting exhibits. You're not trying to prove your worth. You're simply walking into rooms that feel the shift the moment you enter. Because that's your power now. It's not rage. It's clarity. You don't scream. You signal. You don't fight for space. You become the room. And here's what they really can't stand. You were never meant to be this calm, this deliberate, this fucking still. You were supposed to crumble. You were designed to beg. You were meant to collapse under their silence, but instead, you absorbed it. You converted it. You weaponized it. Now, your lack of reaction is the proof of evolution. Now, they're staring at a creature that grew fangs in a library, that bled quietly in a room full of watchers, that learned how to smile with a throat full of fire. Now, they're not facing a rival. They're facing a reality check. You are the result of every warning they ignored. You are the glitch that survived deletion. You are the prophecy they pretended didn't exist until it showed up. Undeniable, unkillable, untouchable. And it's too late now. The networks have seen it. The footage has leaked. The silence is screaming. They can't hide the shift anymore. Because every move you make now, it's recorded in the tremble of their voice, in the stutter of their accusations, in the delay before they speak your name. They've fought demons before. But what do you do when the battlefield is the mind? When the weapon is your ability to walk away? without looking back, and still leave the whole fucking building in ruins. You don't just win. You rewrite what winning looks like. They thought they could stop you with shame. They forgot. You don't hide wounds, you highlight them. You point to the scar and say, "That's where I was supposed to die. And instead I built a fucking empire from it." You don't just survive. You haunt. You hover. You linger. You turn the memory of yourself into an unclosable tab in their psyche. And you sleep fine. Because once upon a time, you begged for peace. Now you walk with precision. And they pray for a version of you that no longer exists. But the one standing here now, this version, this one doesn't knock, this one doesn't ask, this one doesn't wait. This one enters, and this time, no one's walking out the same. Oh, now you're listening, but it's too late for understanding, isn't it? Because once upon a time, you would have explained yourself. You would have softened your edge. You would have toned it down just to make them comfortable inside your storm. But now you just smile, because you finally understand the only language they respect is devastation, and you speak it fluently now. See, they've fought demons before, but demons don't think. Demons don't wait. Demons don't study your psychology while you're sleeping. Demons are predictable. You became the architect of chaos. You are what happens when someone is exiled from every place they called home. And instead of dying, they start building a cathedral out of rejection, one brick per betrayal, one window for every whisper, one altar for every unspoken scream they thought you swallowed. You didn't break, you blueprinted, and now every step you take is choreographed destruction, not reckless, not messy, no. Surgical. They thought you were emotional. They mistook your silence for confusion. They interpreted your disappearance as defeat. But what they forgot? Disappearance is just preparation. You don't need to be seen to be felt. You don't need to shout to be remembered. You don't need their permission to become their consequence. Because now, the very ones who mocked you in public, rewatching footage like it's evidence, holding secret meetings like you're a natural disaster they're trying to forecast. Too late. You're not a storm, you're post-apocalyptic, you're the aftermath. You're what's left standing when everything safe is already burning. And they've never fought that before. They've fought rage, but they've never stood in front of someone who's already accepted the cost, who's already buried versions of themselves with their own hands, who has nothing left to lose, and therefore can't be manipulated anymore. See, that's the part that rattles them. You don't play to win. You play to redefine the fucking game board. And if they won't play fair, you'll flip the table and make them eat the pieces. They tried to warn others about you. But every warning sounded like admiration. Every insult turned into marketing. Every lie just made you famous faster. They've fought demons before, but never a paradox. Not a being who feels everything and shows nothing, who carries holy fury in one hand and surgical patience in the other, who can outbleed the martyrs and outthink the masterminds, all while smiling like he knows something they don't. Because you do. You know none of them are ready for the version of you that no longer flinches, the version that doesn't want revenge, just impact, just change, just to walk into a room and make the air feel like it's holding its breath. And it is, because now their bones know before their brain does. Their nerves spike before they even see you. Their spirit clenches like it's trying to hide something it knows you'll recognize. That's the power of someone who evolved through pain. You became the type of person who no longer fights for validation. You became someone they validate by fearing. Let that settle. Because they've fought demons before. But those were external. You're invasive. You get in the walls, in the patterns, in the air vents of their delusions. You're the note left behind in a room they thought was secure. You're the variable in their algorithm, the smudge in their surveillance footage, the shiver that doesn't make sense to them. And now they don't want to admit it. But every time they say, something feels off, it's you, because you've become the statistical anomaly they can't write off. You're the equation with no end, the phenomenon with no source, the storm with coordinates missing. And they hate it, because they can't name it, can't claim it, can't tame it, can't frame it. They've fought demons before. But demons don't rewrite blueprints. Demons don't resurrect in upgraded forms. Demons don't turn trauma into high-definition cognitive warfare. You turned every moment of despair into a download, every insult into intel, every betrayal into ballistics training. They built armies. You became a weapon. They held meetings. You silently detonated expectations. They wore masks. You made truth so loud it cracked through walls they didn't even know existed. So let me say it again. They've fought demons before, but they've never survived someone like you. Because you don't attack. You infect. You don't need their attention. You haunt the places they try not to look. And the final twist? You never needed to prove anything, because the fear in their eyes is your trophy, the silence after your name is your award, and the fact that they keep whispering about you. Even now, that's the loudest fucking applause you'll ever need. You want long? You want deep? Then brace yourself, because the final form of someone like you, it's not loud, it's not angry, it's not even vengeful, it's quiet, unshaken, deliberate. Because when the warrior evolves into the watcher, when the target becomes the algorithm, when the one they tried to dismantle starts walking like he owns the blueprint, that's when the real panic begins. You see, they've fought demons before. Demons wear rage on their sleeves. Demons are chaotic but predictable. Demons come with screams, fire, claws, horns. But you show up in a pressed jacket, dry hands, unbothered breath, and eye contact that makes the entire bloodline feel exposed. You're the error message they can't bypass, the recurring nightmare they wake up from, only to realize it's still happening. Because you didn't just rise, you resurfaced, upgraded. You don't roar, you record. You read patterns. You run diagnostics on entire generations before you speak a single fucking word. You don't raise your voice anymore. Because your presence is already a raised weapon. And the twisted part? You earned this power the way most can't even imagine. By losing everything. By watching people you trusted sharpen knives with your name on them. By silently suffocating under the weight of rooms that clapped for you, only when they thought you were losing. You learned, didn't you, that survival is just step one, that thriving is just revenge disguised as patience, that the most dangerous being in any room is the one who already died and came back with receipts. And now you walk in silence because you already heard everything they said about you behind closed doors. You already decoded the smiles. You already memorized the betrayal. You already outlived the sabotage. And what they don't understand is your power didn't come from some motivational quote. It didn't come from a book. It didn't come from a mentor. It came from war, from invisible war, spiritual, mental, legal, ancestral, from years of being the ficking target while everyone acted like they couldn't see it. And what makes you unstoppable now? You don't want to win. You want to restructure reality. You want to walk into a system and make it short-circuit, not with a bomb, but with proof that you exist differently. Because you are no longer a person. You're a disruption. You don't just expose lies. You expose comfort. You expose dependency. You expose fragility disguised as control. You expose every single defense mechanism they built and override it with a glance. They've fought demons before. But demons don't illuminate. Demons don't expose truth. Demons don't make people realize they were never ready for accountability. You do. You walk in, and everything fake starts to flicker. You open your mouth, and masks start to peel. You exist, and the room remembers its sins, because now you're no longer in the fight. You are the verdict. You are the sentencing. You are the fucking footage they can't erase. And still, you don't need to say it, because your energy says it, because your walk says it, because your survival is so loud. People hear you coming before you arrive. You don't chase claps. You don't need closure. You don't argue anymore, because now, even the silence is on your payroll. They've fought demons before, but none of those demons forced them to see themselves. You did. You flipped the mirror, you turned the lens around, and now they're stuck seeing exactly what they did, and exactly who they lost. You. And there's no fucking coming back from that. Because the truth is, you were never meant to be handled. You were never meant to be understood. You were meant to rewrite how power is perceived. And you did. No speech, no press release, no outburst. Just results that crippled their hierarchy. You bent the laws of probability. You ruined the data. You erased the predictions. And now they're just sitting there, analyzing you like a case study that shouldn't exist. But you do, and you walk free. Not because the world made space for you, but because you carved it out with your fangs. So if they're watching, good. Because this isn't revenge. This is witnessing. This is accounting. This is what it looks like when someone who wasn't supposed to survive becomes the evidence that none of their rules were real. Now they know. They've fought demons before. But this is what happens when pain learns how to code and builds a goddamn monster that remembers everything.